Hey everybody, this is Javier Balramos. This is Planet Texas Podcast. I have Andrew Jones, and Andrew Jones is a computer engineer. He's also an archaeologist, and he is in search for Noah's Ark in Turkey. Thank you for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here and happy to share all about the exciting news of what we're doing out here in Turkey. And so, yeah, thank you so much.
No problem. So, how did you end up in Turkey? Like, what was going on there?
Yeah, well, I made my first visit here when I was in college back in 1997. And I had heard about the Noah's Ark site being discovered out here through Ron Wyatt, who had passed away. He passed away in 1999. But in 97, I had learned enough about it that I wanted to go see it. And a friend needed a travel companion, and he invited me to go on his trip. And so just the two of us, we went out here. And that kind of started my interest in Turkey. I came back here in 2000, so 3 years later. And then I took a little break, was doing some work and would take my vacation time and do work in Israel. And I was on as a volunteer on excavations there in Jerusalem. But back in 2013, I started coming back to Turkey and got more interested in the Ark site. We had an individual who wanted to do some scans, and so an acquaintance of mine was asked to help with that and get the permission from the Turkish government to scan the Ark site with some new updated technology. And so that was in 2014, and then we did our own scans in 2019 with the Science Channel. And then the next year, I was here and I was visiting a friend of mine out here, and then the pandemic hit. And my friend said, "Hey, why don't you just stay here? We don't know how long the borders will be closed, and you can focus on the Noah's Ark research and you're filming out here." So since 2020, I've been here. So and how I ended up it wasn't planned, but it all worked out, and I actually love it out here. There's a lot of history, beautiful country, and the people are awesome. So yeah, I love it.
I have your website pulled up if you want to share it with the audience.
Yeah, our main website for the Noah's Ark work is noahsarkscans.com, noahsarkscans.com. And
Here we go.
on that website, we have the tour information. We have research papers for and against the site that we're researching. We have updates and links to different news articles. This site has been in the news a lot. Um, yeah, and then we also, I think there's a link at the bottom of the page or somewhere to the our YouTube channel, Discovered Media. You search that on YouTube, you could check out all our different videos about the research here. And we also do research in Saudi Arabia, where we believe the real Mount Sinai is located. And so, yeah, but this site is all focused on the work in Turkey. And so, yeah, people can explore it. We're always updating it. We need to put more recent photos up, but here's some of the work from our scans back in 2019. Uh, and so, yeah, it's noahsarkscans.com.
I actually have the website up right now if you wanted to.
Yeah, I was actually looking at it as you were talking. I mean, as I was talking about it, I was looking at the screen. Yeah, yeah, I see it
Yeah.
right there.
So what is this right here? Is this the
Yeah,
magical
that's
note we're looking at?
that. Yeah, so what you're looking at is the site that was discovered back in 1959 by a Turkish army captain. His name was Captain Durapinar, and he was making maps for the Turkish military. And he saw this boat-shaped object in one of the first photographs taken in 1959. And it was on September 11 that he saw the site. And then it hit the news 1 week later. But the first photograph of this site was published around the world in October of 1959. So this is what the site looks like from one of our drone photographs a couple years ago. But basically, it's boat shaped. It's the exact length of Noah's Ark given in the Bible, 300 Egyptian cubits. And with the scans, we're seeing different layers below, just like the Bible talks about the Ark having three decks. We're seeing hallways, right angles, voids, definitely suggesting that the site is not a natural object. If you look, it's in those thumbnail photographs right there you have at the bottom of the site.
Right
There's
here.
one, some of the, scroll below that, the thumbnails, some of the black and white ones. Right, there it is. There's a couple black and white ones you can pull up.
Okay, let me click on it. There we go.
There's like three black and white photographs. Yeah, like this one. So this was taken in, if you go back to the other one, the black and white, that was one of the first photographs taken of it. Yeah, there you go. This was 1961 by Ara Güler, and he was a famous Turkish photographer back then. And the Turkish military hired this guy to document this site after it was discovered by Durupınar. And so Ara Güler, they put him in a small plane and they flew him over the site, and you can clearly see the boat formation sitting there in the mud flow or the earth slide, earth flow there, where the ground all around it has collapsed and turned into just rough, rocky terrain. But the boat formation is sitting right there, and it's still there to today. So now the Turks, there's a visitor center there. We take tourists down to see the site, and we explain all the different scans and everything that's been done, and why we believe this is the decayed buried remains of Noah's Ark right there.
So has there any significant finds that you've had that actually anything interesting has come about from it?
Yeah, I think, well, so no one has excavated the site. The Turks so far have not allowed that. And so we're only using non-destructive techniques. So an example would be ground penetrating radar. That's been done multiple times on the site. Seismic scans, which uses acoustic waves to detect like the type of material below the ground, just like radar uses the electromagnetic signal, kind of almost like a sonar on a submarine, to detect and map out what's below the surface. ERT, which is electrical resistivity tomography, which uses electrical current to map out the resistive nature of the material below the ground, and then the computer software can make a 3D model. And so all of these techniques are showing an interesting pattern just in that boat formation. This one right there was our 2000. This is an example here. You can see these linear lines about 9 feet down on that side of the boat formation. And so if this was a natural object, just rubble, like rock and dirt, you would not find these patterns and angular features. I think probably the most exciting thing that has happened in this most recent was last year. We took our raw data, and this is from the 2019 scans, the Science Channel, which is basically Discovery Channel. They came out here and filmed the work being done. And so we were doing GPR, ground penetrating radar. And so they scanned the site with two different types of antennas to get different depths and different resolutions. And on that trip, they were able to find angular features that we turned this data over to an American archaeologist who knows GPR and trains on it. And he said, look, this is where he would excavate, because he said this area of the boat has the angular structures about 20 feet down. And he said, like, in nature, you usually don't find something like that. Well, we took that raw data, and just this last year, in 2023, we gave it to another American geophysicist. And so this scientist reviewed the data, and she has 40 years experience in that field of being a geophysicist. And she took the information and she was able to discover something that we totally missed on the 2019 scans. And she found a central hallway going down the boat between, 5, 6, 7, 8 meters down. And so this image right now, what you're looking at, the red is showing the high dense matter versus the soil around it. And so this is where the archaeologist was saying, look, these right angles and these angular features, this is something that he thinks is man-made and not natural. And so anyways, but last year, the geophysicist who reviewed all the raw data, she was able to pull out this central hallway corridor that went down from the pointed top hill in all the way down to the middle of the boat. And it opens up into a central cavity, like a central atrium. And so that was very exciting because we did not know that there was this void there. And so someday we hope we can stick a camera down in there and see what's in there. It might be just mud filled, but there's definitely something unique there that she discovered just looking over our scans from 2019.
So the Turkey government's not really letting y'all do anything other than just scans and a few other things going on.
Correct. Now, they're trying to best preserve the site, so we're trying to use the best high tech uh, uh, systems that could peer below the soil without destroying the site. And so that's one reason why they don't want someone to dig in there and create a big hole. Traditional archaeology is very destructive. And so you'll lose that boat formation if you do like a 5 by 5 meter, like 15-foot square. And that's that black and white photo there is actually the 1959 photograph. And right dead center is the boat formation. And that's what got everyone excited. The Turkish military and the government, they recognized that as they said in the newspapers at the time, it looked like a shipwreck on the side of a mountain. And because you have this boat shaped formation right there. And so, we have been investigating it since my interest in it in the late 90s. I brought in different teams out here. And of course, I do tours out here now. But it's to me, it's the best candidate for the landing of Noah's Ark.
I mean, I can imagine the Turkish government getting angry. A boat that holds every creature that's known to man.
Well, you get different responses. So there's definitely the interest of tourism because that, they see the dollars there. So they have a visitor center and they did declare it a national park in the sense that it is a geological formation in their mind where the tourists can go take photos. And so they're preserving it that way. But now, because of our scans showing, these really interesting results below the soil, their scientists are getting more and more interested. So that back in 2022, just a couple of years ago, 2 of their universities started doing work out here. And not just the Ark site, but the surrounding hills and mountains around it. And they announced their initial results just October of last year, so a year ago, at this Noah's Ark Symposium, which is a conference they hold every 2 years just about Noah's Ark. And at that conference, they announced that they had found ancient pottery dating back to the start of the pottery age for this area. Some of the oldest pottery in the world for this region has been found around the Ark site. So they were very excited because that just shows that there has been man-made activity in this area. It's not void of human occupation. That's what they're looking for as archaeologists. So they announced that they would continue the work. Now, sadly, this year they haven't done much. They told me due to mainly budget constraints, but they hope to continue next year with the research on this site and around it. And we're involved in the way that they've asked us for advice on like what we suggest to do. So we're really pushing for core drilling because then you can not destroy the site, but you can drill like 3-inch holes. It's a geological tool where you can drill down into the ground. They use it also for archaeology, and you'll get samples pulled back out. It'll show you what the scans are showing, so you can actually get physical cores of what's below the ground. We can go as deep as we want, I guess, but maybe 100 meters would be great just to get a whole sample from the top surface all the way down past where we think the buried remains of Noah's Ark is, and then that would show conclusively, what are we seeing on these scans? So when a scan shows like a right angle or it looks like to be a room or a wall, we could get samples of that without having to destroy the site like a traditional excavation would. So anyways, so we're happy that the Turks now are more interested in this site. And so we'll see what happens after that.
Well, I mean, I read the Bible. I do read the Bible. But I mean, how did the Ark end up in Turkey? That's like one of the $1 million question.
Yeah. So, well, if you read, when you read in the Bible, it talks about the story of the flood. Genesis chapter 8, verse 4, it talks about where Noah's Ark landed. And it's very brief. Noah didn't give people where the GPS, location. He didn't have GPS. But so when Moses wrote Genesis, all Moses wrote about Noah's Ark is that it landed in the mountains of Ararat. So what does that mean? Mountains of Ararat. We have a traditional Mount Ararat right near us, right across the valley from this site. It's the highest mountain in Turkey. But the Bible doesn't say a certain peak. All it says mountains, plural. And Ararat is actually an interesting word because it comes from the name of this ancient kingdom that used to cover this whole area of eastern Turkey and into Armenia and northern Iran. And that's the kingdom of Urartu. And so this kingdom, Urartu, is where we get Ararat in English. And so basically, Moses, when he wrote it, he was saying that Noah's Ark landed in the mountainous area of the kingdom of Urartu. And so if I were to say something like that today, it would be like, hey guys, Noah's Ark landed in the Rocky Mountains or landed in the mountains of Canada. It's very similar. You're saying the mountains of this kingdom. So what that means is Moses didn't give us a specific peak. He didn't say it was this one mountain. He just says somewhere in this general territory where you find mountains is the ark. And so we know where the territory Urartu is. Their archaeological sites are all over here. On our tours, we take you to the castles. They're a kingdom that had a lot of fortresses and castles because they were in this mountainous area. And so on top of these mountain peaks and on the sides of these rugged mountains, they would build these really strong stone castles and fortresses. And so they covered this whole area. So somewhere in this area, Moses said is Noah's Ark. And this is where you find this boat formation. It's right in the territory of the kingdom of Urartu. And so it fits perfectly what the Bible says in regards to the location. So, and that, of course, today, this area is Eastern Turkey.
I mean, so what do you do about the skeptics, the ones that, because they come out of the woodworks all the time.
Yeah, my YouTube channel, I always get, the comments and the trolls, and
Yeah.
it's fine. It's okay to be skeptical and question and do more research. If someone already has their mind made up, then it's wasting my time. If they really think this is a natural formation or that Noah's Ark never existed and there was no flood, then I'm not here to convince them. That's they can hold that belief. But in regards to someone has genuine questions about the site or the research being done, or any information like that, then I'm happy to I answer people's questions. I get emails, and people sometimes call me asking questions. So I don't have a problem with that. Here's what when you look at all the different claims for Noah's Ark, there's been many over the years. People say it's up on the big mountain of Ararat, or it's in Iran or southern Turkey. The Quran says it landed on Mount Judy in southern Turkey. And so even some Christians now are focused on that mountain because they couldn't find anything on Mount Ararat, the traditional tallest peak here. So they're looking someplace else. And so now there's a small group looking on Judy, but that's a small little mountain itself that has nothing, like there's nothing been found. So what I tell people is like, hey, we have a boat formation. It's 300 cubits long, just like the Bible says. It's in the mountains of Ararat. The scans are showing interesting features below the ground here. Chemical tests by Ron Wyatt has shown that there's higher carbon, suggesting that it's a decayed boat that's inside the site when he tested it back in 1979. So for me, this is the best candidate. This is a site that you can walk down to. You can drive your car to the visitor center and then walk down to it. There's no thousands of dollars you got to pay. There's no secret site that only a few people know about. You can see this on Google Earth. So this is the best candidate until someone can show me another one. So right now there's no other site that's like this. And so if someone is genuinely interested and wants to see it, they can come out here by themselves or go on one of our tours, and we can explain, the research to them. But this is something that's freely available for people to look into. and nothing's being hidden here. Unlike some of the other sites where you have to pay tens of thousands of dollars, and then some local guide will take you to his secret site where he claims Noah's Ark is on Mount Ararat, and no one else gets to see it. But this guy gets all your money. So there's a site like that you'll see on YouTube. It's called the NAMI. It was a Christian group out of Hong Kong, a Chinese site, and they were taken advantage of by a local. And so this guy raised a ton of money off of these businessmen and Christians, and they had to pay a lot of money to go see his so-called Noah's Ark site. It was in the news back in 2009 and 2010. Then they made a bunch of YouTube videos, and then nothing happened, And then today, no one's been up there since then. So it's very suspicious, especially how much money he made off of them. If it's the real Ark, then it should just be open to anybody to go up there and check it out, and the Turkish archaeologist should be able to walk right up there. So anyway, so you do get a lot of scammers and frauds, in this area. Because locals do the economy, they see a money opportunity, and so we've had to deal with that too on this site. Where people want to make some money off you, and you're just trying to do the research and trying to get people interested. But that's kind of the standard out here, I guess.
So, as an engineer and an archaeologist, what kind of technology do you have available for yourself in order to find out new discoveries?
I want to correct. So yes, I was a computer programmer. I was working for basically one of it's not a state agency. The employees were the prison guard union in California. So we handled their medical and dental and health insurance benefits. So I was the senior programmer for that for a long time. But then I quit to do iPhone and Android apps. I was early on and making good money during the big rush for that. So people always wanted that app back then. So I quit my day job, was doing that full time. But that opened the doors for me to do these explorations on my own. Now to backtrack, so I'm not a professional archaeologist. I'm a biblical researcher. I'm somebody who loves this, and I'm willing to share it. And I didn't even plan to be that way. Because again, I was doing this computer job, 9 to 5 every day. And then on my vacation, I would come out here to these sites because I heard about them through Ron Wyatt and others who researched them. And I was really interested in archaeology and biblical history. So on my own free time and use up my vacation days, I'd come out here. And then what really happened was, because we also do work in Saudi Arabia, where Ron Wyatt believed he had discovered the real Mount Sinai versus the one in Egypt. And so in 2016, the doors opened for us to go there. So some friends and I went in, and we were able to get a 5-year business visa through a Saudi prince. It was a multi-entry. So this is right now you can go as a tourist to Saudi Arabia, but that only started in 2019. But back in 2016, you had to have a special invite or know somebody there or have family members or go on a Hajj if you're Muslim. And so we got this business visa, and that opened the doors for me to just go, it was multi-entry. So I just went a ton of times into Arabia to research and film the Exodus route and all that. And that got people interested because hey, Andrew's been there. He's been to Turkey. He's been to Saudi. He's been to Egypt all these times. And I was working from home at that time, so I had the ability to travel. I already quit my day job. And that opened the doors then for people to want, they would invite me to their church and do like Zoom interviews or meetings and presentations on the internet. And then tours, because people said, hey, this guy's been there. And I didn't even plan it all that way. I was just doing this on my own. And then people started asking me, can we go with you? Can we see it? And so that's how it started. So I'm not an archaeologist, but I'm really interested in all this stuff. But we brought in the experts whenever we need them. So when you asked about like what type of technology we use, well, in 2019, for example, we wanted to scan the site. We had permission to, again, do updated scans, because the last time someone fully scanned the boat was in 1987 and 88. So the late 80s, they were using GPR, but it was the analog, it would print out on a piece of paper everything you saw below the ground in a thermal paper, and that was your results. Well, now the technology was updated, so everything was digital, and it would create a point cloud, And basically, it's a 3D model that you can filter, you can turn it around in 3D, you can extract data, you can slice and dice it like a cake and see all the different layers. And so we brought in that technology. We hired a team that basically some guy who saw our videos on YouTube contacted me in September 2019. And he said, "Hey, I'd like to volunteer. Like, what's going on with the artwork?" I said, "Well, we're hoping before the end of October, it's basically a month, we were hoping to scan the site. We think we can get permission." And then the guy told me, he said, "Well, guess what? My friend, he's a VP of a company that does radar work in America. They're based out of Oregon, but they had an office in Atlanta, Georgia." And so this guy said, "Let me talk to my friend. Maybe you can work with him and you can get something going." I said, "Well, we had a very short time. I had to leave Turkey October, I think it was like 19th or something. So is this coming right up?" Well, it was a miracle because within those 3 to 4 weeks, not only did we sign contracts with this team, they got a team together. We got the funds raised for the payment to the company. They were able to train their employees on the new system and talk to an archaeologist about what to do. And then when the team got out here, the week before they got here, it was raining. And with radar, it's no good. You can't radar the site when it's raining and you get bad results. Well, that week that they showed up, it was crystal clear skies, actually no clouds, clear, like way in the distance, you can actually see Armenia from this site that's right behind me. So when you're standing there, you can see way out to Armenia. It was like the perfect weather. So they from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, they were able to scan the site with this new technology, this digital radar, basically. And then Friday, they took a day off before they left Saturday. And that Friday, when they did some little touring around to see the other sites in the area, it rained. So it's kind of like God had, blocked off the weather just for them to show up. And it also happened to be the same week that the Science Channel was coming in to film. And the Science Channel told us, "We really want to see some action. We can't just, film the site and nothing's going on. We like to see some, archaeologists or scientists working on the site." And when they scheduled the dates in, they did it months in advance. So this is like June and July that we had their date scheduled. And now everything worked out to have this whole team of, I don't know, it was like 6 or 7 people. We had a GPR expert, a LiDAR, which uses laser expert. We had one of the company's VP. We had a couple of volunteers. And so they showed up and their trip was scheduled exactly the same week that the Science Channel came out here to film. And so they were able to put that on their video, which was released in 2020. And so they were super excited. And again, this was a team we knew not, like, I just met the guy over the internet who recommended it. And then he showed up too with this team that we never knew anything about. In fact, a couple of them, they said they were atheists. They're just there to do a job. So they had no, what do you call it? They had no interest in looking for Noah's Ark or promoting this as Noah's Ark. But on their trip, they were one of the images that they got with the radar, which was scanning down below the surface. They were able to see the initial linear patterns, the parallel lines, and the right angles, and that was captured on film. And that even got the British film team that were there filming for Discovery Channel very excited. That team, they told us that they were agnostic, atheists. They're filming, doing a job. They were a production studio out of London, but the producer, he told me, he's like, "Hey, my mother is a believer, or his grandmother is a believer in the Bible." And so when we found this really interesting pattern of lines right below the surface, about 9 feet down, they got everybody excited. He called his grandmother and he said, "Hey, we might be actually filming the real Noah's Ark site." And so he was actually excited. So I don't know what type of impact all this had on him, being an atheist, but the technology now, they're saying that, maybe within our lifetime, they'll have such high tech equipment that maybe we don't even have to excavate a site anymore. There's an American archaeologist. Her name is, I think, Sarah Peck. She wrote a book called Space Archaeology, and she's using like satellite images to find sites, for example, in Egypt. using satellites. But her book was all about this remote sensing where you're using high technology, high tech stuff that can peer below the surface, can analyze the data of just like things that the human eye might miss that's on the surface. That will suggest that, hey, right here's a buried site. And so now we have radar. There's ERT, which was done in 2014 by John Larson in New Zealand. And ERT uses electricity, and the electricity, excuse me, the electricity is shot below the ground into the surface, and as it's hitting the different elements in different objects, like a rock or like a void of a pocket of air, it will come back to the central processing unit and get collected at different intervals. So, for example, metal is highly conductive, so electricity will come back really fast. But if it's a pocket of air, it will take a lot longer for electricity to, flow through let's say it's a central void or some type of room. And so, anyways, the computer software can interpret all that and make a 3D model. And what his results showed is that there's this hull-shaped boat. I call it a beached whale because it looks like like a whale underground there.
Yeah.
Just below the surface, pretty deep actually, continuing down into the side of the mountain. Just right at that top pointed end of the boat, right there you can see the pointed end. So in that general area, even going outside of the boat formation below the ground, he saw this hull shape. And that because it's visual, so that got everybody excited, and that even hit the news back in 2019. People were talking about this 3D image, what looks to be a buried hull of a ship. And so these are some of the ways you can analyze and look at this object without actually having digging to dig it up. So without an excavation, these are some of the tools we are using, and we still would like to do more chemical analysis of the soil, microscopic analysis. There's some other techniques where you can use sound waves to analyze what's below the ground, or even microgravity studies using gravity to see. Again, the whole object is to try to peer below the soil without having to dig it up. And so these are some of the things that we are slowly working on. Things take time, money, and permission to do out here.
So, do you have anything else before we leave off?
Let's see. Well, if someone really interested in this site, there are a number of videos on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. There are other YouTube channels about this. Look up Discovered Media. This is our YouTube channel. And we have a number of lectures and videos, including videos that were Ron Wyatt, who was really the main guy who pushed this site after Captain Durupnar founded it. He was the main guy in the 80s and 90s before he passed away, who really got this into the news media and did the initial pioneering work on the site. So YouTube videos are out there about his work, and then our most recent work. Just check out our channel and other people's channel. And if you have the funds and the time, come out here and see us. We're more than happy to show you around. And so, yeah.
And thank you, Andrew, for coming on. Everything is going to be on the links and descriptions. They're going to know where to go to see the tour. We're going to have all that information out there for you.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.